If you're a green card holder and you've been seeing headlines about a new law in 2026 that could affect your status, you're probably feeling anxious right now. Social media is full of warnings, and you might be wondering if your permanent residency is suddenly at risk. I completely understand that fear, and I'm here to walk you through exactly what's happening, what's real, and what you actually need to do. My name is Saqib, and this is Global Immigration Updates, where we cut through the noise and give you fact-based immigration news without the panic or the rumors. Let's take a deep breath and break this down together. So what is this new green card law everyone is talking about? The truth is, there isn't a single dramatic law that suddenly appeared in 2026 that changes everything for permanent residents overnight. What we are seeing is a combination of proposed bills in Congress, updated enforcement priorities, and changes to how certain immigration benefits are processed. Some of these proposals have been discussed for years, and others are moving through the legislative process right now. But here's the most important thing to understand. A proposal is not a law. A bill is not a law. Until something passes both the House and the Senate and is signed by the President, it does not affect your status. Let me explain how the legislative process actually works, because this is where a lot of confusion starts. When a member of Congress introduces a bill, it gets assigned to a committee. That committee reviews it, holds hearings, and may make changes. Then it needs to be voted on by the full House or Senate. If it passes one chamber, it goes to the other chamber and goes through the same process all over again. Only after both chambers agree on the exact same version does it go to the President for signature. This process can take months or even years. Many bills never become law at all. So when you see a headline saying there's a new green card law, you need to ask yourself, has this actually been signed into law, or is it still just a proposal? Now let's talk about what some of these proposals actually say. One bill that has gained attention is focused on requiring permanent residents to update their address with USCIS within 10 days of moving, and there are penalties proposed for failing to do this. But here's the reality. This requirement already exists. Under current law, green card holders are already required to report address changes within 10 days using Form AR-11. This is not new. What some proposals are suggesting is stricter enforcement of this existing rule and potentially higher penalties for noncompliance. If you've already been following the rules and updating your address when you move, then nothing changes for you. Another proposal that's been circulating involves changes to the continuous residence requirement for naturalization. Some lawmakers have suggested that permanent residents who spend extended time outside the United States without a re-entry permit should face consequences when applying for citizenship. Again, this is not a brand new concept. USCIS already evaluates trips outside the U.S. when you apply for naturalization. If you've been outside the country for more than 6 months at a time, you may be asked to prove that you didn't abandon your residency. What might change is how strictly this is enforced or whether new documentation is required. But the fundamental principle that permanent residents are expected to actually live permanently in the United States has always been there. There's also been talk about increased scrutiny on conditional green card holders, particularly those who obtained their status through marriage. Some proposals suggest more rigorous interviews and follow-up checks to ensure that marriages were genuine and not entered into solely for immigration benefits. If you have a conditional green card, you already know that you must file Form I-751 to remove conditions within the 90-day window before your card expires. This process has always involved proving that your marriage was real. What may be changing is the level of detail USCIS expects in that proof, and possibly longer processing times. But if your marriage is genuine and you have the documentation to prove it, you should not panic. Now let's address the rumors that are causing the most fear. One common rumor is that green card holders will suddenly lose their status if they haven't applied for citizenship within a certain number of years. This is false. There is no current law and no serious proposal that forces permanent residents to naturalize or lose their green cards. Permanent residency means exactly that. It is permanent, as long as you follow the rules. You are not required to become a U.S. citizen. Naturalization is a choice, not an obligation. Another rumor claims that anyone who has ever received public benefits will have their green card revoked. This is misleading. The public charge rule, which has been debated for years, applies to people applying for a green card or trying to enter the U.S., not to those who already have permanent residency. If you already have your green card, using public benefits that you are legally entitled to, such as Medicaid in certain circumstances or food assistance, does not automatically put your status at risk. However, if you leave the U.S. and try to re-enter, or if you commit fraud, that's a different situation. But simply receiving benefits you're eligible for while living in the U.S. is not grounds for removal. There's also confusion about travel. Some people believe that new rules will prevent green card holders from leaving the country, or that any trip abroad will be seen as abandonment. This is not true. Permanent residents have always had the right to travel. What matters is the intent and the length of your trip. If you're planning to be outside the U.S. for more than 1 year, you should apply for a re-entry permit before you leave. If you take multiple trips that show a pattern of not actually living in the United States, that could raise questions. But occasional travel for work, family, or vacation is completely normal and expected. So who is actually affected by these discussions? If you are a green card holder who lives in the United States, updates your address when you move, doesn't commit crimes, and files your taxes, you are not in danger. The proposals being discussed are largely aimed at people who are not following existing rules, people who obtained status fraudulently, or people who are not actually residing in the U.S. even though they claim to be permanent residents. The vast majority of green card holders have nothing to worry about. However, there are a few groups who should pay closer attention. If you have a conditional green card based on marriage and your 2-year anniversary is coming up, make sure you file Form I-751 on time with strong evidence of your bona fide marriage. If you travel frequently for work or family and spend several months outside the U.S. each year, consider consulting an immigration attorney to make sure you're not at risk of being seen as having abandoned your residency. If you've never updated your address with USCIS and you've moved multiple times, take a few minutes today to file Form AR-11 online. It's free and it takes less than 5 minutes. If you're thinking about applying for citizenship, don't let fear rush you, but also don't delay unnecessarily. If you meet the requirements, applying sooner rather than later can give you more stability and rights, including the right to vote and protection from deportation. Now, what should you actually do right now? First, stay informed, but be careful where you get your information. Social media is full of half-truths and fear-mongering. Always verify what you read by checking official sources like USCIS.gov or Congress.gov. If a bill is being proposed, you can look it up by number and read the actual text, not just the sensational headlines. Second, make sure your documentation is in order. Keep your green card valid and renew it if it's expiring. Keep records of your time in the U.S., your tax returns, your address history, and any travel you've done. If you ever need to prove your continuous residence, these documents will be essential. Third, if you have specific concerns about your situation, consult with a licensed immigration attorney. Do not rely on advice from friends, Facebook groups, or unlicensed consultants. Immigration law is complex, and your case is unique. Here's something important to remember. Immigration rules do not usually change overnight. Even when a new law is passed, there is almost always a transition period, guidance from USCIS, and time to comply. The U.S. immigration system, for all its flaws, operates under the rule of law. You have rights. You have due process. If you are a lawful permanent resident, you cannot simply be stripped of that status without cause and without an opportunity to defend yourself. Yes, enforcement priorities can shift. Yes, processing times can get longer. Yes, requirements can become stricter. But sudden, sweeping changes that affect millions of people without warning are extremely rare. I know it's hard not to feel anxious when you see alarming headlines. I know that when your status and your family's future are at stake, every piece of news feels personal. But panic does not help. What helps is accurate information, careful preparation, and staying connected to trustworthy sources. That's exactly what we do here on Global Immigration Updates. We monitor the laws, we read the policies, and we explain them to you in plain language so you can make informed decisions. If this video helped you understand what's really happening with green card rules in 2026, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. Share this video with anyone you know who might be worried or confused, and please leave your questions in the comments below. If there's a specific immigration topic you want me to cover, let me know. I read every comment, and your questions help me create content that actually serves this community. Remember, knowledge is power, and calm, informed action is always better than fear-driven reaction. You are not alone in this, and we will continue to keep you updated every step of the way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.